We're restructuring to maximize shareholder value, Brandon said, adjusting the cuff of his tailored blazer. It was my third meeting that day, and the shortest one of my life. My name's Clayton Reich. I'm 52, and for the past 14 years, I was the Eastern Division Director at Northrise Apparel. I didn't have a flashy job title, and I never cared for the corporate spotlight. What I did have was trust, earned through early mornings, late-night flights, and thousands of quiet, consistent conversations that built a network no algorithm could replicate. I wasn't hired from a big-name competitor. Back then, the company was still operating out of a leased warehouse near Charlotte. The Eastern Division was bleeding cash, and I was brought in under one condition: fix it, or it gets shut down. So I rolled up my sleeves and got to work. My team started with 9 people and 1 working printer. No CRM, no marketing budget, just relationships. I visited every client in person, every single one. I sat in their offices, listened to their frustrations, walked their factory floors, and learned what they hated about other vendors. Delays, wrong sizing, no follow-up. I fixed it all, personally. And little by little, the division stopped being a liability. It became the engine. Within 5 years, we were outperforming all other regions. By year 7, we had more than doubled the team and moved into a proper office. Not glamorous, but functional. I handpicked everyone, from Janice in customer support, who could calm even the angriest procurement officer, to Keith in design, a quiet genius fresh out of school who once saved a major contract with a single prototype. I didn't do it for applause. I did it because I believed in building something real. My wife, Jennifer, used to call me the fixer, always stepping in where things looked impossible. She never complained about the late nights or emergency flights. Even when our son Dylan was still in high school, she made sure everything at home ran smooth so I could keep building what I believed in. I didn't climb over people. I didn't politic my way into a corner office. I just delivered. Year after year, contract after contract. Suncoast Financial, Vector Properties, Aldridge Group. Clients that could have gone anywhere, but stayed with us. Stayed with me. Because they knew who answered the phone when there was a problem. They knew who showed up when shipments were delayed or when specs changed at the last second. But here's the thing. When the new CEO arrived, young, polished, Harvard MBA, they didn't ask about legacy. They didn't ask what worked. They asked about projections, about scale, about vision. Brandon never joined a single call, never sat through one client review. He looked at a spreadsheet and thought he understood everything. He didn't. Not even close. When I joined Northrise, it wasn't Northrise. Back then, we were still Southeast Uniform Solutions, working out of a leased warehouse with peeling paint and second-hand desks. The break room didn't have coffee, just a vending machine that mostly took your money and gave nothing back. But we had grit. I remember the first big contract we landed, a regional healthcare chain. It wasn't glamorous, but it gave us a chance to prove we could deliver consistently. And we did. That contract opened the door to 2 others, then 4 more. Within 3 years, we went from patching holes to building momentum. By the 5th year, our division was responsible for nearly 1/3 of the company's total revenue, not because we were louder, but because we were sharper. While other regions struggled with churn, we had client retention above 90%. I didn't need marketing spin. I had relationships, I had trust, I had results, and the company noticed. Promotions came, budgets grew. But something else crept in, slowly, subtly. The culture shifted. It stopped being about service and started being about margin. I could feel it happening, but I still believed we could balance both. Turns out, I was wrong. It started with little things. My name stopped appearing on client updates. Meeting invites got lost. When I brought it up to Denise, our longtime admin, she gave me that look, like she knew something she couldn't say. I didn't press. I already felt it in the air. Then came the strategy sessions. Weekly meetings with consultants in sharp suits who didn't know a sleeve spec from a shipping delay. They nodded a lot, spoke in acronyms, and tossed around phrases like client automation journey and phasing out legacy contributors. I knew what that last one meant. I just wasn't ready to hear it aimed at me. Brandon, the new CEO, arrived like a storm in a bottle. Fresh haircut, slick slides, Harvard ring on his finger like a badge of divine insight. He smiled too much. Said things like, "Disruption is the new foundation." He didn't once ask how we'd grown 18% year over year while the other divisions flatlined. Didn't ask why Suncoast Financial refused to sign renewal documents, unless I was on the call. He was more interested in software dashboards and scalability pathways, whatever that meant. 3 months in, I was assigned a shadow, a younger manager named Lucas. Nice kid, digital-first mindset, lots of ideas. But I could see what was happening. Lucas wasn't there to assist me. He was there to replace me, train under me, mirror me, then erase me. I gave him everything he needed. Every file, every contact, every process. But I held back the one thing they couldn't replicate, my judgment. The instinct that told me when a client was on the verge of leaving or when a delivery error could be defused with a 5-minute call. That part? You can't upload that to a CRM. I became invisible by design. They were preparing the cut. And I let them, but I wasn't leaving empty-handed. The day after they let me go, I got a text from Alicia in HR. "The team's asking if you'll help with the transition." I stared at the screen for a long second, then turned the phone, face down, and poured myself a drink. They wanted me to train Lucas, guide him through my accounts, show him how to keep the ship from sinking after they threw the captain overboard. But I wasn't going to be their safety net. Not this time. 3. Days later, my inbox was full. Keith from design, Janice from client services, even Alan from logistics, they were all reaching out. Some wanted advice. Others wanted to quit. One just asked, "What now?" But I didn't reply. Not yet. Then came the first missed shipment. Sun. Coast Financial didn't receive their uniform order. No explanation. No apology. Just silence. That account alone was worth $1.8 million annually. The client called Lucas. He didn't answer. They called the front desk. No one had a clue. They tried me next. Of course they did. I let the call go to voicemail. The silence wasn't passive. It was deliberate. I wasn't angry. I was focused. Focused on what would happen next. Because while they thought I was gone for good, the foundation was already cracking, and I hadn't even touched it yet. The message came on a Thursday. Subject line, "Let's talk." Sender, Diane Walsh, VP of Client Partnerships at Vector Properties. One of our biggest accounts. One of my accounts. I opened it slowly, already suspecting where it was headed. "Heard about the shakeup at Northrise," she wrote. "Unfortunate. Would love to hear your thoughts about something. Off the record." I didn't answer right. Away. I sat with it for a while. Sipped my coffee. Took a walk around the lake. But I already knew what she meant. And what she meant was that they wanted me. The next day I met Diane and her COO at a quiet steakhouse on the edge of town. No logos, no pitches, just straight talk. "We've been thinking about building our own in-house apparel distribution model," she explained. "And frankly, you're the only person we'd trust to lead it. No formal interview, no drawn-out process. Just a number on a napkin and 3 words. Name your terms." For a second, I felt the old temptation to accept the offer and send Northrise a copy of the contract with a little smiley face drawn on the bottom. But that would have been too small for what they did to me, so instead I made a request. "I'll join," I said, "but not just to lead distribution. I want full oversight of vendor transition, staffing, onboarding, client retention, and I choose the team." Diane smiled. Done. And that's how it started. Within 2 weeks, I had Janice and Keith on board. Alan followed. Then 3 more quietly left Northrise and showed up at my new office, resumes in hand, asking where they could plug in. I didn't even need to post job listings. Loyalty travels quietly, but fast. Meanwhile, my phone buzzed with increasing desperation. 1 missed call from Brandon, 2 emails marked urgent, a voicemail from Lucas. Hey, we could really use your insight on the renewal process for Aldridge Group. They're threatening to pull out. I didn't respond, not out of spite, out of principle. They hadn't just fired me, they'd erased me, and now they were realizing the part they deleted was the operating system. By month's end, 3 major contracts were in review. 2 were already on my desk. Clients weren't angry. They were confused. What happened to Clayton? They kept asking. Who's running things now? It was poetic, really. They stripped me of my title, my office, my division, but they couldn't touch what I'd actually built. Trust. Trust can't be inherited, can't be bought. And once it walks out the door, no amount of corporate jargon can bring it back. By the end of the second quarter, Northrise wasn't bleeding. It was hemorrhaging. Suncoast Financial officially pulled their contract. Vector followed a week later. Aldridge Group froze all future orders. Combined, that was over $5.6 million in annual revenue, gone in less than 30 days. And the irony? It wasn't sabotage, it was absence. No one had picked up the pieces I left behind, because no one knew where they were. Brandon tried to pivot, started hosting flashy relaunch webinars, quoting trends and digital shifts. But none of that mattered when clients couldn't get answers, when sizing specs were off, when deliveries missed deadlines. They didn't want disruption. They wanted someone who answered the phone. Internal emails started leaking. Staff were panicking. HR couldn't fill vacant roles fast enough. Turnover tripled. Clients were dropping faster than they could be replaced. Then came the legal letters. Apparently, in their rush to cut ties, they'd overlooked a few contract clauses, ones I helped write years ago. Penalties for breach, refund terms, audit obligations. That part never made the slides in Brandon's investor updates. He reached out again, this time with a different tone. Clayton, I believe there's still a path forward. We'd value your input, maybe a consulting arrangement. Please let me know if you're open to a conversation. I read it twice, then archived it. Didn't even bother responding. The final blow came when a former intern, now working on my new team, sent me a screenshot. Northrise's website quietly removed the Eastern Division from their leadership page. No announcement, no statement. Just gone, erased, again. But here's the thing they never understood. You can delete a name from a slide, but you can't delete a reputation. And mine. It was still answering calls. It wasn't until Janice forwarded me the internal memo that everything snapped into place. Subject line, Phase 3, Eastern Division Integration Strategy. It was dated 2 weeks before my termination. The language was cold, methodical, like I'd been a malfunctioning asset, not a human being. Bullet points outlined everything, from how my accounts would be reassigned to a rebranding initiative aimed at minimizing fallout from long-term client loss. There was even a line that made me sit back in my chair. Client loyalty must be retrained around the brand, not the individual. That's when I knew this wasn't just about cost-cutting or vision. They planned it. Every move, every silence, every skipped meeting. They wanted me out. But not because I wasn't performing, because I was. My name had grown too loud in the ears of the clients, too present in the processes, too central to the company's identity. And in a boardroom somewhere, someone decided that made me a threat. I later found out Brandon had pitched this transition in his final interview with the board. Decentralize personality-based leadership, he said. Standardize value delivery across divisions. Translation? Get rid of the people who built the company and install ones who wouldn't question the script. Alicia from HR confirmed it over coffee one afternoon. Quiet cafe, no eye contact. They didn't think you'd walk away clean, she said, voice low. They expected you to fight, to sue, to make noise. That's why they planned around it. But I didn't fight. I documented. Every client testimonial, every team performance review, every contract renewal that mentioned me by name. I kept it all, and when the dust settled, I handed that portfolio to my attorney, just in case they tried to rewrite the past. They didn't, because they couldn't. Instead, they kept quiet while the division collapsed, hoping no one would connect the dots. But they did. Clients started asking questions. Why was Clayton really let go? Why did 3 senior team members follow him out the door? Why is the new team failing to deliver on simple orders? And the board? They panicked. A week after the 4th major account canceled, one of the board members, Carolyn Linwood, called me personally. We weren't fully aware of the decisions being made, Clayton, she said. This wasn't how things were supposed to go. I didn't say much, just listened. Let her fill the silence with regret. But the part that stayed with me came at the very end. You were the foundation, she said softly. We just didn't realize it until it cracked. Starting over wasn't something I feared. I'd done it once already, back when the Eastern Division was just a dusty corner of a failing company. The difference now? This time, it was mine. The new venture didn't have a name at first. No branding agency, no mission statement. Just a vision. Build a distribution model that didn't rely on corporate fluff, but on people, real ones. The kind who know a client's name, their history, their quirks. People like Janice, Keith, and Alan. I rented a modest office on the edge of town. Old brick, lots of natural light, a bit of character, something the glass towers never had. We brought in our own desks, cleaned the floors ourselves. No investors, no buzzwords, just work. Within 6 months, we were fully operational. 3. Major clients had already signed on, quietly stepping away from Northrise and walking right into our hands. Not because of price, not because of tech, because of trust. We didn't chase growth. We earned it. Every contract came with a promise. No AI chatbots, no endless email loops, just one number, one person, one solution. The team grew organically. Former colleagues reached out. One by one they joined, not for salaries, but for the culture. A culture where showing up mattered more than showing off. We didn't call it a family. We weren't that cheesy, but we acted like one. Even suppliers noticed the shift. Our warehouse manager, Ricky, told me one afternoon, "You know, I've never seen trucks load this fast. People actually care here." That hit me harder than I expected. And the clients? They stopped seeing us as vendors. We became partners. We helped them forecast better, solve bottlenecks, and even rework product lines. Some of them started inviting us to internal planning sessions, not out of obligation, but out of respect. For the first time in years, I wasn't navigating egos or justifying budgets to someone with zero skin in the game. I answered only to the people I served and the ones building beside me. My wife, Jennifer, said it best one night over dinner. "You're sleeping again," she smiled. "You used to carry everything on your back. Now it looks like you're finally walking forward." She was right. And Dylan, my son, called out of the blue after seeing one of our client logos in a trade magazine. "Dad, is this you?" "Every part of it," I told him. "This wasn't revenge. This was restoration, not of reputation, but of purpose. Because when you've been used, erased, and underestimated, rebuilding isn't about proving them wrong. It's about proving to yourself that nothing real can be taken. And this was real." The email came with no subject line, just a name I hadn't seen in a while. Brandon Voss. I almost didn't open it. But curiosity has a rhythm you can't ignore. It simply read, Clayton, the board would like to discuss a potential integration opportunity. Would you be open to a meeting next week? Best, Brandon. I read it twice, then once more, just to be sure I was seeing it right. Integration opportunity. In other words, they wanted back in. 2 days later, I was sitting across from 3 Northrise board members in a neutral office downtown. No handshakes, just straight to business. Brandon wasn't there. Clayton, one of them began, we've been reviewing performance metrics since your departure and, well, the results speak for themselves. They spoke, all right, lost revenue, eroded client trust, employee churn, legal fees. They'd tried to replace a foundation with a facade, and the cracks had gone all the way to the roof. We'd like to explore a merger, another added, or possibly an acquisition of your current operation. I waited a moment before responding. Let the silence settle. I'm not opposed to conversations, I said calmly. But let's be clear, this isn't a rescue for me. It's a recalibration. For you? They nodded. One of them shifted in his seat. If I even consider this, I continued, it will be under one condition. I set the terms. No middlemen, no brand dilution, no culture erosion. My team stays intact. My name stays attached. A long pause. Finally, one of them said, understood. But I wasn't finished. Oh, and Brandon? I asked, raising an eyebrow. He's no longer with the company, one replied quietly. I nodded once, not out of satisfaction, just acknowledgement, because this wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about principle. They didn't need me to fix their mess. They needed someone who still knew how to build, someone who hadn't forgotten the sound of a client's voice. And now, they were willing to give up power to get it back. Funny, how the same man they erased was now the only one they trusted to rewrite the future. And this time, the blueprint would be mine. There was no grand announcement, no red carpet, no fake smiles waiting at the door. I parked in the same lot I'd used for 14 years, same space, same walk across the pavement, but everything felt different. This time I wasn't entering as an employee. I was walking in as the man they now reported to. No name badge, no onboarding packet, no tour. I already knew every hallway, every creaky floor tile, every outdated thermostat that never quite worked. I built these rooms, first with sweat, then with trust. The receptionist, new since my exit, looked up as I entered. Hi, can I help you? But Janice appeared behind her and smiled. He doesn't need help, she said. He's home. I walked past the open-plan workspace where Lucas once sat. It was empty now. The new team had no idea who I was, but I saw the way they glanced up from their screens, some out of curiosity, others with quiet recognition. It didn't matter. I wasn't here to prove anything. I wasn't here to gloat while others chased. Attention, I was building something that lasted. While Brandon was printing buzzwords, I was delivering promises. A few people tried to stop and welcome me back with the awkward corporate cheeriness that never fit me. I just nodded politely, kept walking. Then I reached the glass-walled conference room where I was once let go. Same chairs, same table, even the same coffee pot with the cracked lid. But now, it was mine. I sat down at the head of the table. No entourage, no press release, just a quiet breath. The kind that says, I'm still here. And this time, I decide how it ends. Because when you build your value from the inside out, you don't need to shout. The room already knows. I never cared about leaving my name on a plaque. What mattered to me was leaving behind something people could build on. Not a building, a mindset. So I started mentoring, quietly. No LinkedIn posts, no staged photo ops. Just closed-door meetings with the ones everyone else overlooked. The new assistant who reminded me of myself at 24. the intern who stayed late without being asked, the junior account manager who took a notebook to every meeting, even when no one else did. I taught them what I'd wished someone had told me, that consistency beats charisma, that trust is the only real currency, and that the quietest person in the room often carries the most weight. If they're listening, I didn't need a trophy. I was building people now, because revenge is temporary, but legacy echoes in voices that haven't even spoken yet. I never needed to shout. Time did the talking, and in the end, what they tried to erase became the foundation of something better, stronger, mine. Funny how the loudest victories are the ones you don't announce. You just live them.